And welcome to Bulls and Reds, your podcast which is hosted by Richard and Mario, and we're at home at Leipzig. And each week we like to invite you to have a look at our RB Leipzig world as we see it. So tonight I'd just like to welcome Richard. Richard, how the devil are you?
Oh, hey Mario, I'm so excited. First time we're recording with the new software. Ooh, it feels like, you talked last week about your new seat. It was like a new day in school, and it feels like similar, we're doing this stuff we ever did. And, but yeah, it's like in a new room, and I'm so excited. And you know what? It's so weird. We're still 30 degrees Celsius outside, and it's dark at night. It's 8:30. And on Sunday it was Sunday. Sunday I was in a Freibad with my daughter, and it feels
outdoor
like
swimming pool. Wow.
Thank you. I was in an outdoor swimming pool, and it feels weird. Because it's so late in the summer and still so hot. So, okay, my 2 cents for the evening. Let's go.
It is warm. So yes. Let's talk about this unbelievable performance in Leverkusen. I remember you saying we had less than a chance and less of a chance to get away with anything. And I kind of tended to agree with you. And I was just opting for a 2-2 draw, maybe as an alibi. I'm not so sure. But it turns out to be RB Leipzig is a streak buster. And I didn't realize that the streak was 35 matches of unbeaten matches for Bayer Leverkusen until last Saturday. And that was quite a long streak. Yeah, so of course they were unbeaten last season, and that is quite a remarkable performance. RB Leipzig themselves have now beaten 13 matches in a row, which seems quite like a low number, but we just take everything we can. But hey, Richard, if we look at those stats, and you told me about, especially with X goals, the team shouldn't have won that, because if you look at the possession of the ball, it was something like 63% in favor of Bayer Leverkusen. And I found this great statistics on the SofaScore, and I know you like that one as well. And they had this statistics about clear chances that teams created, and that was 6-3 in favor of Bayer 04. Talk about efficiency, eh? And in terms of X goals, this was 2.23 to 1.14 in favor of Bayer 04. But it seemed like they should have really been cruising, and they were cruising in the first half, weren't they?
Of course, you nailed it. I think out of like 50 matches, we're going to lose 49.
True. True.
You said it all. And usually you don't take away anything here. And we can be grateful to our keeper, Peter Gulaschi, who definitely saved us the points. And efficiency is key. You mentioned those 3 clear chances. It's a funny thing that, in my opinion at least, 2 of our 3 goals were not of those clear chances. So this the 2-2 equalizer that came by Goal Penda in the 57th minute, when he pushed this ball through the 5-hole, so to speak.
How did he do that?
And he doesn't know either. And so there was a lucky guy in this one, and the game winner 10 minutes before the final whistle. Hey, come on, this is a 1% goal out of the box, like left to the center, through the legs of the defender. And even the keeper was he was in the right place to save that ball. Mm-hmm. But somehow he didn't. And boy, that was a lucky performance, a fluky win. Nevertheless, we take it.
Definitely. But it all kind of started with a lack of concentration in the on the defensive part of Bayer 04 Leverkusen. 7 minutes of overtime or extra time in the first half. And the player who we kind of criticized last week when he played versus Bochum, and was a bit unfortunate as I put it at the time, but he was fighting Kevin Campbell, Kevko. He just scored the first goal for RB Leipzig, and that did change the momentum. Just before halftime, before they went into the dugout, or it's not really well, until they took a break for 15 minutes, it felt like this really changed momentum. They came out fighting, they came out believing, and that just shows that 33-year-old Kevin Kumper is quite important part for the team, and on the pitch, but also off the pitch. I was really surprised that they did manage to turn around the second half. But do you know who else really was who was the focus on that? Was Bichabu Chad, the guy who always get Upamecano vibes when I see him. And I can't believe that only last season, or that he arrived for 15 million euros from Paris Saint-Germain. And he only had 6 caps last season. He was injured, I know, but he was never in the starting 11. And remember in the last episode, we were talking about our defense without Willi Orban, and I think he's suspended for 2 matches, but that was appealed today as well. They tried to get it reduced to 1. And we all, were kind of alluding to the fact that the last time we sort of had this formation was in that match versus VfB Stuttgart, that great one. But this time, I mean, Chad, the young guy, and Chad managed to prevent Boniface from causing any more damage in that game. So he was really praised by coach Marco Rose as well. And it seemed like that in this match, in this top match versus the champion and the cup winners of last season and the Super Cup winners of this season, he really developed further. It was just unbelievable. You could see his development during the match. And Marco Rose told him during halftime, just be careful when you're in the box. Just don't do any slide tacklings. Just block the people more often, And I think he took it to heart. So brilliant performance. Does that mean he's going to start more often? I don't know. It didn't sound like that, but at least he got closer to it. So Kevin Kumper, Bichabu, really 2 key players, even above goaltender Šeško. Šeško had a clear chance as well. And Pete, I mean, the whole performance was just amazing. But let me ask you a question. 12th minute, that scene in our box. Mr. Boniface was getting the ball with a very high kick, almost 2 meters high, and he hit the ball, but he hit also Haidara's head, which looked really, really, that looked outrageous to me. How could that not have been a red card, Richard?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was tried manslaughter. You cannot do that. You cannot do that in a stacked penalty box after a corner kick. Come on, you're a serious Boniface, and are you a serious ref? Hey, if you're trying to do a scorpion kick or bicycle kick or something like that, and if you come too close to another player, you get booked for dangerous play. So this is fair to say. You get a yellow card because this play is dangerous in itself, okay? And if you now hit somebody, in fact, and almost kick the head of his neck, you don't get red. You only get a yellow card as well. That doesn't make sense to me. And especially if you bear in mind what took place a few minutes later. When Marco Rose, was somehow upset about a non-call in midfield, where he received 2 yellow cards within 13 seconds. You know what? I got Stefan Kutschke vibes. You know why? I think it was in the game versus the second squad of VfL Wolfsburg back in those days, like 2013 or whenever that was. When he committed a foul in midfield, received a yellow card, and then just stood next to the ball and doesn't move fast enough away, so that the ref gave him the second yellow within 10 seconds for the same sequence. Anyway, so yeah, I felt remembered to that, and so. Well, I don't understand. It's now 3 days gone, 4 days in the past, and I still cannot believe how this is not a red card. Luckily, Haidara came away with only
a concussion.
A concussion. Hopefully, he recovers well. I'm glad that he doesn't take the this exhausting journey to Africa for his national team. So he can stay at Leipzig, see that he gets some rest, and hopefully will help us in the next upcoming games. And you mentioned that Marco Rose told something to Chad Bichabu during halftime. Was he allowed to visit the team? as he was
He
sent
must
off.
have. He must have been. He can't just be at the sidelines, I suppose. And
Interesting.
but he must have been able to talk to the team. I think that was okay. He also said in the press conference, Haidara was taken off the pitch because, well, he did know that he was a football player, but he had problems letting everybody know what the date is and the score. I'm not sure if he knew who they were playing. But as he left the pitch, he was throwing that bottle away. He was clearly aggravated about Marco Rose's call, but it was for his own protection. So I'm glad, that people think about health, put health first. But it looked horrible. And the referee later on, what's his name? Jollenbeck. He argued that Boniface was only looking to hit the ball, and he wasn't aware of Haidar. But like you said before, he was in an environment of a completely stacked box full of players. But he still went for the ball and taking the risk of hitting somebody else. There was also a comment by, veteran referee Manuel Grefe, and he's quoted to have said that this was a clear error, but I couldn't find any explanation why this was a clear error. So he just said it's a clear error and full stop, boom. So yeah, but at least, Haidara is still healthy. We came away 3 points. Still awful to watch, really awful to watch. And, I also read what the tactics were in a nutshell for beating Bayern 04 Leverkusen. And I thought it was quite funny. So it sounds really sophisticated, and I have no idea what I'm talking about, so listen to this. So all RB Leipzig had to do, they had to press high with their own sixes, so their defensive midfield, and that was at the time Seiwald and Campbell. And the intention was to stop Bayern 04's, so Leverkusen's defensive midfield. And they wanted to stop them from being creative, like they always are, Xhaka and Garcia. And the key was not to let Bayern 04 circulate the ball. But I also think it was key to be so efficient and to convert the few chances that we had. And we did squander a few ones as well. And I just see Češko where he didn't score. But you had to be lucky as well. Like the 2 goals that Openda scored could have gone the other way as well. And remember, just think back to the first game that we had it was the first match day last season at Leverkusen, where we lost 3-2, and Openda had this great chance, and I think he hit the post, didn't he? So we could have gone away with a point there as well. But hey, we beat them. Unbelievable. I didn't think we would, to be honest. So very good vibes in Leipzig. Does that mean we're going to be champions? Well, you think so. So we learned that in our first episode. But
I've got a little fun fact for you.
But before you share the fun fact, do you have a key takeaway from this? Is there something which you can take away from that?
Not really. Not really something sophisticated. Just like, it's the same. This old-fashioned term. You have to win games like this if you want to end up. If you want to go all the way, you have to win those stinkers.
I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And, later on we'll talk about the new additions as well. They haven't been included in the squad as well. So, but hey, very happy to come away with these 3 points, and especially at Leverkusen. They're not unbeatable. They are not unbeatable. Atalanta Bergamo knows.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So you mentioned Manuel Grefe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact. And a tip for you. Do you know when it was the last time that we overcame a 2-goal deficit and still managed to get away with the win? I give you a tip. Manuel Grefe was the ref.
A 2-goal deficit?
Yeah. So we were down 2-0 and came up with the win.
Was that in the third Liga when we played Duisburg?
No, it's not that long. It's not that long ago. It's a little bit. It's more than one season, yes.
Okay.
It was a game during COVID season.
Yeah, right.
So you probably didn't saw it. So you missed it, like everyone else. Okay, it was February 21.
Okay, I don't know.
Manuel Grefe was the ref. We played at home versus Mönchengladbach, and
where Serlot scored in the
brilliant.
He kind of pushed the Gladbach guy, but it was still within limits. Yeah, and somebody on Twitter at the time he put a tweet out saying, "Hey, we would have celebrated that guy so much because he was used to that from Turkey." And it seemed like, wow, now he's turned the corner. He's going to be great. I remember that.
Yeah. Since that game, so like more than 100 or something games, we didn't get away with 3 points when we were down 2 goals.
And Manuel Greve let that slide. Oh, okay. I see. And he would have given Boniface a red card. I bet you that.
Of course.
How'd you come up with these things? It's crazy.
Well, when I have some time to spare, I look how to use them for a little preparation for our podcast and then do some things like that.
Some fun facts. So anyways, let's cherish these memories of this match, and hopefully these 3 points will be worth a lot. And I'm looking forward to the game when they come back, when they come to us. So a different time of the season, it'll be highly competitive, so it'll be great. Great, thank you. And now, Richard, for something completely different, let's talk about the transfer window. And I think the transfer window was pretty exciting, slow in the beginning, but then gathered pace and it was pretty exciting and it's also profitable. So I would like to just look at the numbers. Did we generate, or did RB Leipzig generate any surplus, or did we make a loss? It's starting to rain, if you can hear that. And let's look at some of the key players who left us and some key players who have been added to the squad and the ones who are still here. So, Richard, if you look at the numbers, we have to admit that RB Leipzig had a transfer plus. They generated sort of, well, I don't know if you can call it a profit of around 34 million. That's according to the website transfermarkt.de. You might find other numbers which are higher. And that just represents RB Leipzig being top of the league. That's the biggest profit that anybody generated. RB Leipzig is only followed by Mintzlove. And how does that compare to last year? Well, it's down from last year. Last year, RB Leipzig generated a profit of 64 million, but do bear in mind who left us. Guardiol, Kunku, Shobo, those three alone, I think they generated a 3. That's our dog. So it's all happening today. Can I just pause for a second? Hold on. And also, what was really striking is the statistics of the ones who generated a loss. And on top of the league there is FC Bayern München. They generated a loss of 67 million. And Borussia Dortmund also 47 million. So in that sense, RB Leipzig did really well. But if we look back to the time when RB Leipzig entered the first Bundesliga, we are still running at a loss of around 70 million. So there's still a lot of catching up to do to make up these numbers. But still, in the last 2 years, RB Leipzig had very good results when it comes to the financials. Now, let's have a look at the key players who left us or not in our squad anymore. And I'd like to mention, Jannis Blaswich. We all knew that Jannis Blaswich would leave RB Leipzig on loan to RB Salzburg. And there he is the number one goalie. And hopefully he'll have a hell of a very good season. And as I understand, he'll also be featuring in the Champions League. So well done, Jannis. It's going to be amazing, hopefully. But who else left us? And I can't believe that he was still on our books. Angelino. Finally. He finally was sold, and he's going to join AS Roma for 5.2 million euros, which I thought is still quite high after his odyssey of being loaned out to various clubs in Europe. And I also noticed that, the Spanish player Hugo Nuova, the young guy, left RB Leipzig finally, and he was sold to Deportiva Alaves in the La Liga for 2.5 million. And the reason for me for mentioning this is that Hugo was very grateful in his farewell speech that was published on YouTube and by RB Leipzig. He was very grateful for everything that RB Leipzig had provided. And I found this very interesting because he didn't really feature much in the senior team. I remember a couple of times when he started joining the team, there was a certain hype around him, when he was subbed in the Kräuter Fürth game, and I think he scored twice, and everybody had a sort of enthusiasm, the sort of enthusiasm we have now about the youngster Vego Goebbels. But then increasingly he didn't make it into the first team, and was loaned out to other clubs, I think to Switzerland. Anyway, he was loaned out quite a few times, never returned, never had a chance, but he's still very grateful to RB Leipzig. So thank you very much. Well done to him, and hopefully, he'll have a great season in Spain. And then, of course, the two key players who left us. Dani Olmo, sold to Barcelona. He's in his home for almost 55 million. That was expected, and it finally happened. I remember you talking about it in one of the episodes last season when you said, hey, the 60 million, the sort of 60 million, they are budgeted for the new season anyway, so it had to happen. So it did happen, unfortunately. He's only been registered to play for the first part of the season. They have to re-register him in the second part. Hopefully, he's going to be able to play. What a club, Barca. What happened to you guys? And, well, the last-minute departure, Mosi Marcon. I must admit, that hurt. Because I really liked the guy. I thought he was really a good addition to the club, and he should have stayed, and nobody else could pronounce Rasenball like him. Nobody could party like him. Remember the first time in the first final RB Leipzig won the cup, he was the fire beast in the squad. And even the second final, when he didn't play, he wasn't on the pitch in the final. Of course, he was in those matches before that, but he wasn't in the final. But hey, when RB Leipzig had won the game, and you saw all the pictures, he was in there. He was there with the team. He was lifting that trophy. And it felt like, of course, he played for 90 minutes. Come on, he's such an integral part of the team. So we were going to miss him. Thank him for everything. He's, of course, going to Saudi Arabia. And I must admit, I don't understand. If you just look at the money, it's 65 million over 5 years. Okay, it's a good salary, but he's still young. And why is he going to Saudi Arabia? But hey, we wish him all the best. It is sort of an emotional farewell that he posted as well. And I'm sure he will always have a place in our hearts of the RB Leipzig community. So these were the people who left us. And I think, Richard, I didn't forget anybody. But we had some very interesting additions. Starting with Xavi. Okay, Xavi, we don't need to talk about him anymore. We're just glad we have him on loan one more year. Extraordinary player. And he's going to develop further and improve on his performance of the first two matches. But then there's also Asan, I can't pronounce it.
Ouedraogo.
Oh, you're perfect. 17, I think he's 18, sorry. 18, he was playing for the under-70s for Germany. Was he playing when the under-70s got the World Cup title? Was he in the squad as well?
Let me take a look. I'm not sure.
But anyways, he just joined us from Schalke. So from a club with a lot of tradition, he went to our club with almost no tradition, and it's a very exciting addition. Now, in the preseason, he featured in a couple of games, and it was alleged that he might be loaned out, but it occurred very quickly that he's going to be they're going to be trying to include him in the first game. Unfortunately, at the moment, he is still injured, but I do believe that he could come back and could be integrated into the squad and maybe play some sort of role like Chad does. This year. So very good talent, very great addition. And of course, our goalie Martin van der Voort. Now, he's only 22 years old, and he also plays for the under 18, or used to play for the under 18 national team for Belgium. But he's got this challenge with Pete at the moment. Currently, he's still a backup. Pete already said that rotation goal actually would make sense with all these games that are coming up this season. So hopefully we'll see him in goal as well. What we have seen from him during preseason and what has been shown from training sessions, bloody hell, he's a very good goalie. So if we manage to keep him, if he manages to stay on until, Pete may decide or may not be at his best anymore, then I think we have a wonderful first goalie again after Pete. So exciting there. Now, the next three that we're going to mention is Antonio Nusa. I never heard of the guy before. I don't know if you did, Richard, before, but he's only 19 years old. And if you look at him, you wouldn't suspect it, but he plays for Norway. He plays for Norway, has 7 caps so far and a goal. And he joined us from FC Brugge. He's a left winger. But what a guy. And what kind of impact he already had. Think back of the game versus Essen. think back of the game versus Bochum, where he scored the only goal, the winning goal, the ricochet. I want to put that ball in there goal. Beautiful thing. And I believe he also had an assist in the Leverkusen match. So never started yet, but when he came on, made a really good impact. So very exciting, very exciting. Also, we have a new addition, a gentleman called Arthur Vermeeren. And Vermeeren is such a nice sexish word, but we can't explain that. In our local accent, it means something. It's like you lose something temporarily. He's 19, a central midfield player, and he plays for Belgium, had 4 caps so far. And he's on loan from Atletico Madrid. We have the obligation to buy him for approximately 25 million, and it seems to be very easy to reach that obligation. So I'm really suspecting us wanting to buy that player. So far we haven't seen him, but he has been subbed in the 87 minutes versus Bayer Leverkusen. But everybody's very excited to have him. Now, the last addition I like to mention is a name and a player which we already talked about last year during the transfer window. And during that time, he's a born and bred player from Rotterdam, Feyenoord Rotterdam. It must have been really, really hard and emotional for those fans to see him leave. We all understand that. But for us, he's a really exciting player. 24 years old, right defender. What I read is he's also flexible central defender, or he can play in defensive midfield. According to the Transfermarkt, to that website, his market value is 32 million. They bought him for 20 million. Apparently, Xavi is a good friend of him, and Xavi put Leipzig in a very positive light. And it's alleged that this player, and you'll be wondering why I'm not mentioning the name. Well, the name is too complicated to pronounce. I'll show you in a second. But anyways, it was alleged that the next step in his career development can only be RB Leipzig, no other club. Now, this is the first. This is the first that I hear about that. That just shows how RB Leipzig improved their reputation, how they worked on their reputation, how the reputation out of these RB Leipzig haters, Red Bull haters, has really improved. But let's go back to, how do you pronounce that name?
Hi RB fans, Wille Charles Getreida. I'm very happy to be here and I can't wait to see you guys in the stadium. Love.
Well, it's going to be a heck of a job, especially for our stadium announcer, Tim. He's going to have a hell of a job, and for all of us. But I think we're going to just make our own name up, just like with Upamecano. Upamecano. Something along these lines. So, welcome. Very, very hard to pronounce for us. It is amazing. Just listen to that again.
Wille Charles Getreida.
No chance. No chance. So, wonderful addition to that. So, we had 5 really exciting additions. We were losing a couple of experienced players, the ones who we actually expected, like Dani Olmo. Mo Simakan for me was a bit unexpected, but we still have some players who are still here, at least on our books. If you look at Timo Werner, for example, he wasn't bought by the Spurs. He's still loaned down to the Spurs, and I'm not 100% sure what the buying application would be or will be, or how easy it gets for the Londoners to get out of that. And so far, what I've seen from the Premier League, he hasn't featured in the starting 11. I think the last match he was subbed in, that was Timo Werner, but he hasn't had any real impact. So we'll see how his season's going to go. Also, who's back in Leipzig actually is André Silva. André Silva. Ex-Portuguese international player. He had 53 caps, 19 goals. He's 28 now. And he's back from a loan from Real Sociedad. His contract actually expires in 2026. So next summer he would go in his last year, which is not ideal. And he can be loaned out one more time. So he was in the squad when RB Leipzig played Bochum and Leverkusen, but he was not subbed in. But he did have a couple of minutes versus Essen and Dave Pokal. Transfermarkt actually puts his market value currently at 6 million. His peak was in 2021, 45 million. RB Leipzig actually bought him for 23 million. At the time, that was really expensive, remember? And now with Openda, I think it was 43, 44 million. This looks like a bargain. And before that, Patrick Schick was too expensive as well. That's why we ended up with Sörloth. But yeah, he's still on our books. My thesis is, well, he might be gone by the winter. I don't think with Rose he gets a lot of minutes. If he could make it into the squad and appear more often, that would be great. But I'm not sure if he can get past our club legend, Yusuf Pausen, who's also here. You know, it's rumored that he can leave if the right offer and the right club comes along. Of course, he's still here, and I'm actually very happy that he's still here. But Yusuf Pausen is now 30, and he's in Danish international and he's here since July 2013. Now, the longest serving RB Leipzig footballer of all times. And I remember last year when Emil Forsberg left, you told me, Richard, the only thing it can get worse is when Yusuf Pausen leaves. You know, we may have to build him a massive statue. It may have to be more. And especially after this weekend in Nations League, he did this wonderful bicycle kick tour for Denmark versus Serbia. Yeah, he is still here. He only came into playing against Poland in the 89th minute. I'm not really sure how many minutes he will get, but there are enough games where I would like to think that he will be at least subbed in. I'm not sure in terms of starting 11, maybe here and there may be an option. Transfermarkt.de puts him at a market value of 6 million euros. His peak was 35 million in the winter 2019. His contract also expires on the 30th of June 2026. So maybe the summer is finally the time when he will leave. Or maybe in the winter we have another tear-jerking moment when Yusuf Pausen will have to go. So I think in summary, we have the biggest accomplishment is, apart from generating a profit, I think RB Leipzig always wants to try to generate a profit, but we've kept we regained, let's put it that way, Xavi. So for one more season on a loan at least. So that is beautiful and so vital. But we also kept players like Šeško and Openda and other experienced players who are in the squad as well. And that is a good sign. And on top of that, we have 5 new additions, which sound like the old RB Leipzig DNA. Really young players, very high potentials, who could be with us for 2-3 years apart, except there's somebody like Šoško who are just sold for a ridiculous amount of money. So it looks like on one hand we have experienced players, we have proven players, attackers like Šeško, Openda, Xavi is still there, Baumgartner will hopefully get back to speed, Seiwald will hopefully get back to his form during the Euros, so it all could click together very, very quickly. Plus, you know, when we looked at the Leverkusen game, how Chad operated, that was really impressive as well. So Richard, have we done something similar like Leverkusen the year before, or is it still the old RB Leipzig DNA with developing players and then selling them on and trying to qualify for UCL?
First of all, I would like to thank you for your discourse. You mentioned pretty much anything about our transfer window, so there's nothing more to add here for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And to your question, no, I disagree with that. I don't see that there's... I have my own opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
I'm a self-thinker.
And queer.
So yeah, because if you look what Leverkusen did in that year before the transfer window before the last season started, so they lost the RB, their top scorer, and the speedster to Aston Villa, and they replaced him with Victor Boniface. Well, I was a bit skeptical at first, because he came from that minor league. He came from Union Saint-Gilloise, and I saw him playing twice in the Euro matches versus Union Berlin. And I was like, okay, this is a tough guy and hard to stop, but he only showed it in this minor league. Is he good enough to show it in the top tier of European football? Obviously, he is. But the key addition, in my opinion, was the transfer of Granit Xhaka. This I think he's 31, 32-year-old veteran who is the maestro in midfield. He's orchestrating the offense, but the defense as well. And, we don't have anyone like that. So we don't have a midfield veteran. We have our own veterans. with Kevin Campbell, oldie but goldie. Seems to find a way back to the old form where he was at first seen when he arrived in Leipzig a few seasons ago. We have Haidara with a, I love this guy because he is such a stable floor. He is limited though, okay, to be fair. He will never be world class, never be an outstanding player, but you can throw it in and you will always get a solid performance in the best possible way you can understand that. And then we have Skava Shalaga still injured, unfortunately, tried to recovering from his torn ACL, will join us in hopefully the second half of the season. And those three guys are our veterans in that department. And without any key addition here, I think this is a not comparable situation to what Leverkusen did.
Okay.
But nevertheless, I think with our transfer additions, you mentioned them all, Vermeeren and Ouedraogo, and I think, of course, the last addition that came in just hours before the transfer window closing, and especially our last addition. Yeah, this guy.
Okay, it's enough.
Okay. Or in Saxony we say Gertruida. I think this is an upgrade. So you mentioned that you was a little bit sad about that Mo Simakan left us to the most entertaining league on this globe.
Yeah,
the Pro League in Saudi Arabia, where human rights are above anything else, and especially above money. But to be honest, I think. Football-wise, it's an upgrade. So from what I have seen from him, from Gertruida during the Euros and the highlight reels I watched, and then I compared numbers. So in terms of how often is he involved in any goals, how many successful tackles does he got during 90 minutes, and so on. And yep. It seems like it's one tier above Mo Simakan, and I'm very excited to see him performing on the right side. And it seems like he's more an atypical addition. He's already 24 years old, which is pretty old for a new RB Leipzig player.
Correct.
And it seems that he's some more offensive skills or more balanced skill, more balanced style of playing his especially a right defensive position, and that hopefully leads to take some pressure from David Raum as well, because in my opinion he's the only player in our squad who is able to bring some offensive spirit on the outline, and so then we can have this hopefully on both lanes of the field. And I'm really, really, really curious how this will work out during the season.
But the way you explained it, I'm hyped. This is going to be awesome. To
you
infinity.
Need a fridge. I sell fridges too. Hey, I've got a new fridge here in store just for you, but maybe talk about it later.
I think I signed for it already. I was at the washing machine. To infinity and beyond. That's all I need to say.
Buy two, get one free. It's safe even more in a package.
So it sounds to me that this was a pretty good transfer window for RB Leipzig, and it's a lot for us to be excited about. And there's also this buzz about Vecchi Goebbels, a really young player from our local area. I just hope he can live up to the expectation, or they ease him in gently. I think he was playing for the under-19 over the weekend. So this is actually where he kind of belongs. And I hope he doesn't suffer the destiny of Hugo Nuova. So if he could make it into the first team, that would be awesome. And it would be a real success story for somebody who's actually from this area. But we shall see. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Richard. And I would like to move on to our next topic. It's the last topic for this week. And it's something... It's a piece which I found in a newspaper in Germany called Westfalenpost. That's from the western part of Germany. And it caught my eye because the headline was Rose soll Titel liefern. If I translate that loosely, as Marco Rose is to deliver trophies or titles. That was published on the 3rd of September. I'll put a link in the description below. And in that article, actually, The author was before referring to Oliver Mintzlaff, who's the former CEO and chairman of RB Leipzig. Now he's part of the executive management team of Red Bull. There are only three. Red Bull GmbH, there are only three of them. So a very powerful guy, and we all know he's contributed immensely to the development of RB Leipzig. But he's alleged to have said at a gala of a sports magazine that RB Leipzig has already finished as runners-up of the Bundesliga. And of course, if you look at that, that's not going to be enough. And it's also alleged that he really liked our former coach, now the coach of the German national team, Julian Nagelsmann. And it's also believed that he thinks that RB Leipzig would have been crowned champions with him in charge already. So Marco Rose, our current coach from Leipzig, seems to be aware of that, and we don't know the ins and outs. And it was definitely part of the discussions as well last year when Marco Rose's contract was extended. And Marco Rose at the time actually asked, so is RB Leipzig hungry for more? Or are we ever just, in quotation mark, just get young players, develop them, sell them at a profit? Is this just our main task, or are we going to compete and challenge for titles and trophies? If we look at this fact that, last season RB Leipzig finished fourth, subsequently qualifying for the new Champions League, new structured Champions League, and we made it into the last 16, but we crashed out in the second round of the DFB Pokal as defenders. If you look at that performance, it is a performance that could be expected, because it looks, ever since RB Leipzig qualified or entered the top flight German football, the Erste Bundesliga, it was always the goal to at least qualify for UCL football for the following season. And it's also mentioned in that article that for last season, the club opened up their coffers and provided players who were worth around 180 million euros. But at the same time, just alone, Kunku, Schobo, and Guardiol, who left us, they generate an income of around 210 million. So it's just the sheer quality of players that we lost at that time. And it looks that for this season, though, there has been sort of a change of a tactic, at least in my eyes. You keep some key players like Xavi, Openda, Šeško. We have experienced players as well, and some of them we forget about if they're injured for a longer time. Just like, you mentioned Xavi. Xaver Schlager. I actually forgot about him for a while now because he hasn't featured in the Euros, but when he comes back with a vengeance. And he played so well with Haidara, for example. But we added young, new, exciting talent. And the expectations are still that Marco Rose is to get some sort of trophy. I think if you think about the trophy that top management really wants, of course, is the crown of the Bundesliga, to be crowned champions. And there is a certain buzz, almost like last year, that the team is capable of doing so. But last year when we were excited, that was before we played Bayer Leverkusen for the first time. This year we beat the current champions. It was only match day 2. It's a long season, but that already sent a signal out to the league. But nevertheless, there is an expectation that Marco Rose is to deliver trophies, or at least show a development of the team which is substantial. And I'm not really sure if it is enough if we get through the last 16 in the UEFA Champions League. It's going to be tough anyway to qualify for that in the new format. Even the quarterfinals might be not enough. You have to be doing something really extraordinary. At least we can't crash out in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal. I think we need to be in there much longer, and you have to be at least in the top 3, maybe maybe even the top 2. So I'm kind of worried, a bit concerned that Marco Rose on one end has a squad with young players, experienced players, and they may have to click together quite quickly. But a lot of things have to go right in order to get some sort of trophy, and even maybe to get the cup. The national cup may not feel enough because it's nothing new. I think the only new thing is the Bundesliga title, or, Champions League, but I don't think we need to talk about that. So do you think, given all of that and that kind of pressure from the top of management, are we still going to see Marco Rose going into next season? If RB Leipzig doesn't produce any titles or win any trophies, and if they just progress slightly further in these other competitions and maybe just finish third. What do you think, Richard?
Well, I think it depends on the particular circumstances, how this season develops and what the outcome is. Imagine if you're bottling the German championship on the last match day versus Stuttgart at home, and played brilliantly the whole season, and then finish it with like 80 points. And imagine finishing second place being defeated by another team, say like Leverkusen or Bayern Munich, with also 80 points. It's a different story than finishing like third and fourth place by a thin margin to the fifth ranked team.
True.
And finish like 59 or 60 points. So I think you have to take a look at the whole story, the whole picture, to make a decision like that. But if the front office should make a decision, or should bring the discussion up, if Marco Rose is the coach we can rely on in the next season or seasons, you have to bear in mind what could be a better alternative. And to be honest, I don't see any current better alternative on the market. So maybe Lucien Favre. I think he's unemployed in the moment.
Okay.
Gareth, I like
there's this English guy, Gareth.
That was never be able to bring this multi-billion-dollar squad to near of a title win.
But much more successful than the years before,
So, but what I'd like to say is, do I believe that Lucien Favre would be an upgrade compared to Marco Rose? No.
I agree.
I think he's a great coach, but it'd never be an upgrade.
Yeah.
So then you have Jurgen Klopp, maybe, but I don't think he's ever willing to go to another club in the Bundesliga besides of Dortmund. So this is completely out of range. And, I have to maybe do a little short list and then thinking about who might be a better alternative to Marco Rose. And this is what the front office should do if they are intending to do something stupid in my eyes.
I agree.
And Marco, I do believe, and even more if you take a look at our schedule. So it's pretty funny if you look at the schedule for the upcoming week. So we have Union Berlin this Saturday. We will talk about it in another episode. And Union Berlin is frightening weak. They had they have 4 points and they don't know how they got it. So they got a lucky one.
Like Eintracht Frankfurt last year. Before they
maybe. So they got a 1-1 draw, luckily, at Mainz 05, and then somehow got away with their home win. I think it was versus St. Pauli. 1-0. So it was a game that was not on Bundesliga level, to be honest. So we have Union Berlin. Then we travel to St. Pauli. Obviously, not yet in Bundesliga form. Maybe later. Then we get Augsburg at home. Then Heidenheim. Okay, that's a little bit dangerous, to be honest, but Heidenheim have to deal with in Germany we say Doppelbelastung, so they have to do for the first time in their club history on the European stage, so they have 2 games a week on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And that should be a challenge for them. Then Mainz 05. Okay, we never look good at that, but Mainz 05. If you have your ambitions, and we talk about winning titles, and we talk about finishing at least in the top 4, there's no doubt about, no discussion that you have to get away with the win, or you cannot lose at Mainz 05.
Correct.
And if you do, not in a way we did last season.
I agree.
And then Freiburg, and then Dortmund in the early November. And what's funny about this is if you look how we're playing in the UCL, in between those, bread and butter Bundesliga matches, it's Atletico Madrid between Union and St. Pauli, it's Juventus between Augsburg and Heidenheim, and it's Liverpool between Mainz 05 and Freiburg. So it is a little bit dangerous on the one hand side, because you can maybe lose your focus from the Bundesliga if you look in 2 games ahead and think, oh, there's the next highlight just around the corner. On the other hand side, this might be a little advantage as well, because if you have to play only hard matches in quotation marks hard matches versus the top sides in European football, and then not the top sides in Bundesliga level, then you have I think you have a little bit more options to mix it up a little, mix up your squad a little, and give every player some time to rest and other players time to shine in the Bundesliga. And so yes, I think we have pretty good chances that we're gathering, that we're gaining, that we are harvesting, like, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 more wins until the end of October in the Bundesliga. And this should create a nice cushion, a nice little gap to those other ambition teams that follow us.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see us, because after this weekend where we had the first international break of the season, it's going to be just back-to-back football, isn't it? Also, Champions League are going to start soon. It's going to be really interesting to see how all of these clubs get through that.
Yeah, you're right. There's 4 more games in September and 6 games in October. Yeah, it's football 24/7.
It's a lot. So, Sauerschlager, somebody like Sauerschlager can't come back fast enough, but it's still going to take until November, I heard. And yes, we will have to deal with players being injured, So, but other teams as well. It's going to be an issue across all the teams in the leagues. Very interesting. So we'll see. I would really love it if Marco Rose is to stay for a couple more years. I do also remember some of the reactions on social media on the net every time RB Leipzig lost. It was a sort of tendency to blame Marco Rose very quickly, that he was limited in his tactical approach and to react, or in-game coaching, all these things that we all are experts of course. Something that's going to come up as soon as things, well, like always, as soon as things don't run smoothly. But I think I tend to agree with Golpenta, because he said we're actually in a better position this year than last year at this time of the season. Like what you said before, the team is going to click faster. And we've seen this already in Leverkusen. This is a game we should have never won. And we wouldn't have won last season, but this time we did. So I think we can all look forward to a really exciting season, and especially to our next match against the Rostigen Union Berlin. Really interesting take, though, of this article. Richard, thank you very much for your time again. I know it's been a little bit unusual for us recording today, and on our new software with some glitches. You will not hear those glitches, but there were some glitches. Maybe we'll do a special episode one of these days. This has been Bulls in Red. It's our RB Leipzig podcast in English, which is at home at Leipzig, hosted by Richard and Mario. And we come to you at least once every week. We're broadcasting on Wednesday, Thursday. See how we can push the episodes out. And there'll be additional episodes every time RB Leipzig's playing in the Champions League. Also, if you like our podcast, kindly consider subscribing to our podcast on your platform. And you can also leave us a comment there, or you can contact us by email. Email address is podcast@bullsandred.com. We're also on Twitter. The username is podcast_RBL. You can find us on Instagram. The name is Bulls and Red. And our episodes are also available on YouTube. Guys, have a good week. We'll talk to you again in a couple of days' time. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. All we need to say now, danke Richard. And auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.